story happened several decades ago, in the early 90s. The tape you're about to hear tonight was found half buried in an old abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city of Ashmill Heights. You are the first to listen to it after so many years. I hope you're not afraid. I'm Evan Blackwood, and this is Whispers Unseen. Tonight, I bring you the file known as The Night the Radio Spoke My Name. Like every night, Mark Ellison left his car in front of the old factory on the outskirts of Ashmill Heights. That immense grey building with its concrete walls classed with everything around it, standing alone in the middle of nowhere. The Ashmill Heights factory had been running at half capacity for years, but they still needed a night watchman. Just one, every night, from 10 to 6. The darkness of the night didn't allow him to see beyond the street lamp that illuminated the guard booth where Mark spent his shift. Every hour he would leave that small cubicle to make a round around the outside of the factory. Then he'd return to his booth every night like a ritual, alone, accompanied only by the radio, his sole companion. Mark usually turned the radio on as soon as he sat down. He said that without it, silence devoured him. Welcome to tonight's program, where we'll be talking about fear. Surely all our listeners are afraid of something. It might be an unresolved fear from childhood, a childhood trauma that follows them all their lives, or fears they acquire throughout their lives. Mark opened his soda can and began eating the tuna sandwich he had prepared. Tonight we want to know, what is your fear, Mark? Mark stopped chewing. Had he heard that correctly? Had the radio said his name? He thought it had to be a coincidence. Or maybe he hadn't heard well. Night shift, Ashmill Heights. Can you hear us, Mark? Mark froze. Was this some kind of joke? He thought. He looked through the booth windows. There was no one outside, only the dark night, his parked car, the road disappearing into the distance between the trees. Silence, nothing, only that factory for miles around. Guys, what kind of joke is this? Mark murmured timidly, thinking a coworker was messing with him. You've always hated the dark, haven't you, Mark? The radio voice continued. That's why you always slept with the hallway light on. Mark couldn't believe what was happening. He examined the radio carefully. Nothing strange on the outside. No recorder attached to the back playing a prank tape. Nothing. The voice was coming from the radio, from that strange program. You were 6 years old. Are you still afraid of the dark, Mark? At that moment, the street lamp lighting the area began to flicker until it finally went out. No, damn it, no! Mark shouted in fear. The windows showed only darkness. Outside, everything was pitch black. The only remaining light was inside the booth. Well, it seems you've just lost your light outside, just as you're supposed to check what that noise was. Noise? What noise? Mark asked, looking around. In that instant, a loud metallic sound echoed behind him. It came from the factory's main door. Mark froze. His heart pounded. He turned on his flashlight and carefully opened the booth door. Are you going out, Mark? If I were you, I wouldn't. It's very dark out there. I recommend you don't leave that booth tonight. Not for anything. Mark shut the door quickly. A shiver ran through his body. He grabbed the phone to call the police. Hello? Is this the police? Mark? Yes, it's me. I think you dialed the wrong number. You called our program. This can't be happening, Mark said, terrified. He dialed again, but the announcer's voice didn't go away. It was always there, on the other end of the line. What's happening? What do you want from me? Who the hell are you? We'd better continue with the program, Mark. We must go on for the sake of our listeners. It was summer You were 10 years old, riding happily on your new bike when a dog lunged at your leg. Your father, who was with you, reacted quickly and managed to scare off that huge black dog. Since that day, you have a scar on your right leg and a panic fear of dogs. Suddenly, in the darkness, a howl echoed. It came from ahead, across the road, from the trees. Mark tried to shine the flashlight outside from inside the booth. In the distance, some glowing eyes and the shadow of a large dog made him drop the flashlight to the floor. The animals, panting, soon grew louder, circling the booth. It was as if it were walking around him. That's another one of your fears, isn't it? I'm going insane! Help me! Someone help me! The dog began scratching at the door, hard. Then it started jumping against it, trying to get in. Its barking grew louder and louder. Mark grabbed the flashlight, pointing it as if it were a weapon. Mark began to cry in terror. The door looked like it could give way any second. Suddenly, silence. The dog was gone. Do you remember when you turned 12, Mark? Your mother had prepared a peanut butter sandwich. That afternoon, you discovered you were allergic. Do you remember how your lips began to swell? How your tongue felt like it was growing inside your mouth? How your throat began to close until you couldn't breathe? Good thing you made it to the hospital in time, right? Mark, I want you to do me a favor. Look again at the sandwich you were eating. Mark looked at it, horrified. He opened the bread. Inside, it was filled with peanut butter. Mark began to struggle for air. His lips tingled as they swelled. I don't think there's a hospital anywhere near you. Is there, Mark? This can't be real. This can't be real. Mark whispered weakly. He could barely breathe. His tongue was swollen, his throat closing. Mark collapsed unconscious onto the booth table. After a few minutes, he regained consciousness. "Mark, are you still there? Come on, it was nothing. Let's continue with the program, shall we?" Mark sat up, dazed. The sandwich was tuna again. The symptoms were gone. His lips, his tongue, his throat, everything was normal. Mark tried to change the station, but every station played the same program. He removed the batteries from the radio, but the radio kept working. "Your greatest fear, Mark, is death, isn't it?" Silence fell on the radio. "Death has always frightened you. You were 8 when you found your grandfather dead in the rocking chair." Mark's eyes filled with tears. A cold sweat ran down his back. That memory, that awful memory. Mark was more terrified than ever. How could it know all this? Who was speaking from the radio? Was any of this real, or was he dreaming? "Do you remember how you always had nightmares afterward? You always dreamed your grandfather came back for you to take you with him. Do you remember, Mark?" Outside, the street lamp began to glow again, little by little. Mark couldn't take it anymore. Without thinking twice, he opened the booth door and, taking advantage of the returning light, ran toward his car. He looked around in fear, making sure that horrible dog wasn't there. He opened his car door and got in. He breathed with relief. For the first time that night, he was going to escape this nightmare. He started the car and sped away. At that moment, the radio turned on. Mark looked around in fear and tried to find a music station, but that voice returned. "Mark, the program isn't over yet. We still need the final touch. I told you not to leave the booth." In that instant, a hand from the back seat grabbed Mark's shoulder. Terrified, he looked into the rear-view mirror. What he saw horrified him. The rotting corpse of his grandfather was sitting in the back seat, gripping his shoulder. Mark swerved off the road in his car, tumbled down the hillside. The car was completely destroyed. Inside, Mark's lifeless body lay still. the radio began to play. And that's all for today's program about Mark's fears. We hope you've finally overcome your fear of death, Mark. Some say the radio still turns on by itself at night, tuning to a station that doesn't exist on any map. A voice trapped between static and fear. If you ever find yourself driving near Ashmill Heights, don't stop. And whatever you do, don't listen to the radio. This is Evan Blackwood, and this is Whispers and Sin. Subscribe if you dare. Whispers and Sin.